Welcome to another takeover edition of ynfmoviepod. This is Chris.
And this is Chad. And today we sit down with director Rob Ciano and we talk about the 90s classic Hook.
But while you're listening, be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at ynfmoviepod. That's also where you can find Chad and I in case you want to follow us as well.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
There's no crying in baseball!
I ate his liver with some fava beans and nice caliente.
That was totally wicked!
If I can change, and you can change, everybody can change!
And welcome back. So we got a wonderful guest with us today. We have a writer, director, producer, editor. He kind of does a little bit of everything from what I understand. So here is Rob Ciano. He is the writer, director of Shimmer, which we're going to be talking a little bit of. So thank you for joining us, man. I know this is a little earlier in the morning than maybe what we're used to. So when I read up on you, you're a little bit of a jack of all trades, it sounds like, and film is a really big part of who you are, from what I understand. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got started?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thanks for having me. And yeah, absolutely. Well, I started out in theater. I started acting on stage when I was 7 years old with like a theater camp kind of a thing. And I got bit with the acting bug pretty quickly, and that kind of spiraled into doing a little bit of community theater, a lot of musicals, stuff like that. My sister joined in when she got old enough, and then my brother joined in when he, was old enough to start. And my parents, everybody, it was a whole family thing. Everybody was really involved in the theater. And at the same time, or around the same time, a friend of mine ended up getting a video camera, and those two kind of married pretty easily for me. And I started getting into both doing the acting side and the video side, which also meant, I'm editing on my VCR to VCR, from the camera to the VCR, and doing all this fun stuff.
Awesome.
That led to, we had a video and film elective in high school. I went to school for film. And it's really just been an exercise in keeping going, I guess.
Right.
There were a lot of projects that I had where, in one project in particular, it took me 7 years to edit this one project. Yeah, I mean, it's been a strange, interesting journey. I guess the more recent things that happened was to get to actually making this film was I made a short film called Blackout with a co-director named Stanton Hunter, and he came up with the story. I wrote the script, we directed together, and just so happened to be in the right place at the right time, where we met somebody who represented Showtime, and they were able to, I took my shot, gave them my card, said, "Can you watch my short film?" Because he mentioned in passing that sometimes they'll license short films, and indeed they did, and that was, that worked out well enough that I was able to get some funding to make this feature.
That's amazing.
That's where we are.
Yeah. That is awesome. It's being a creative. It's like you want to be able to make sure you have your hands in everything a little bit, because you see the vision in your head of, maybe the editing parts, and you see the vision of the production part of it, to the production design, and not just the acting and the story necessarily, but you see the little nuances as a creative, and that I can absolutely relate to. It's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that comes too with starting on that kind of base level of you have to have your hands in everything. You're making the whole thing yourself, just you, and maybe if you're lucky, you've got your friend, but otherwise, it was me with my Legos. So, I'm making a little Lego movie. I have to do everything for that. The editing, I have to do the sound effects that I was making. I was making little laser sounds with my mouth, and I was zoom, zoom,
yes.
And then re-recording it. So it was just this whole learning process throughout life,
Yeah, and it just prepares you, especially because Chad here, he's my brother, so we grew up close in age and all that stuff. So we would sometimes just take our action figures or whatever, and sometimes just do slice of life act out thing with the figures, and we'll just, you know, find like maybe cards or some sort to make like furniture pieces with or whatever, and be like, oh, this is a piece here, goes here, and blah blah, and you know, kind of almost stage it out and everything. So it really does kind of get you going, and it sounds like that's kind of like a little bit of what you had there to get the ball rolling for you in the early days.
Yeah, absolutely. And also I was lucky too, because especially in school, I I was kind of known as the guy that made videos and did acting. So like I was able to actually do a lot of school projects that otherwise wouldn't be videos as videos. So
nice, yeah.
there was a lot of like extra practice there too, which was some were hits and some were misses. I'll tell you that much. Tell you that much. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to hit those aces all the time. That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the truth, right?
Exactly.
You sit there and you see it in your head, but then it doesn't come out quite right. If I can talk pretty, quite right. There we go. So I've got to ask you, so about this movie Shimmer, we already know what it's about, but can you tell our listeners a little bit of what this movie is?
Sure. Well, Shimmer, are you afraid of the light? There is an entity that lives in the light and you really can't see it during the day. Our main character is a forensic scientist who's investigating a series of strange deaths. And as she continues to investigate, she starts to realize this doesn't seem like a human killer, and then realizes, oh my God, this thing is after me, and has to try and stop it.
That's awesome. See, like, and actually, oh my gosh, Nicole.
Galicia.
Yeah,
yes.
I always have a problem with the last name there for some reason.
Mhm.
Galicia,
Yes.
she was really good, by the way. Great choice and everything too. So
Nicole
I really
was
enjoyed
amazing.
that. Yeah,
Absolutely.
And this kind of had a little bit of a X-Files
Yeah.
feel to me in some respect. That was really neat to enjoy. It's a great mystery thriller for anyone who's kind of curious about the genres mixed in it. It's really awesome.
Yeah, and I like that it, because we all have that innate fear of the dark, but what you've done is you've subverted that idea, which I thought was a really neat twist on, the sort of innate fears that we may not necessarily have.
And then also I'm kind of curious, how did you come up with this film?
Well, actually, it's exactly what you were just saying, Chad, was that we took this idea, the idea of being afraid of the dark is common enough that people understand it pretty readily. So I really wanted to flip that on its head and say, all right, well, here's this concept we know. What's the opposite of that? Why would somebody be afraid of the light? What are properties of light that could be, frightening? Light reveals things that maybe people wouldn't, otherwise want to be revealed. Light can blind you. Light can, and then, combining that with some other metaphors and things, maybe a light of truth, something like that. So the story kind of evolved out of this idea of like, where and how can we make something, light, and it happened pretty early on that like there was indeed like an entity, there was some kind of physical representation of this light in the world, and there was some kind of light thing that was causing these problems, and it evolved into what the film is. But it really the idea came out of this experiment of like what kind of story can happen where there is this light protagonist. Or antagonist, I should say. Or is it an antagonist? Is it just a creature? Who knows? Maybe it's just living its life and got mixed up in some humans this time. Like, who knows?
Right.
Yeah. And the thing is even in the light, it can be dangerous because we never know what can happen. And there's also all kinds of crazy true stories that's happened out there too. That can be quite mysterious and scary. So it can get to anybody.
Yeah.
But otherwise, like, what also inspired you to go into filmmaking? It sounds like it was always there for you, of course, but was there some early influences there for you?
Well, I mean, as far as early influences, one thing was my friend ended up getting that camera pretty young. So I was always interested in like, oh, camera. Also, my dad would always at every family gathering have his video camera out taking home movies. And so that was also a thing that I connected to. Like, I was just like, oh, like this is cool. Like he's capturing these moments. And then like, we'd watch some old movies as a family other times. And like, And I just like really got into this idea of like having a camera, capturing moments, using those moments to tell stories. And when I was getting closer to college age, and it's like, am I going to go to school? If I'm going to go to school, what am I going to go to school for? It was really between acting and film. And because I really was heavily involved in acting, I was trying to get an agent. I was going out there and doing auditions and things. And I was doing, literally, I did maybe at least 2, if not 4 community theater musicals a year, which can be anywhere from 2 to 3 months of rehearsal. I was really into it. But when it really came down to like, what do I want to go ahead and study and do and pursue? I enjoyed acting, but I think I started to see myself more as like that overall storyteller and the person to like, I felt like I could be the person to put the story together, to create that.
Right.
I was also writing scripts at that time. I was making my own movies, and I was like, this is so much fun. Like I want to learn how to do all of this stuff. And I want to do all of this stuff as opposed to just kind of focus in here,
That's so really cool, man. What was there like, obviously we got another film we'll be talking about here soon that
yes,
I know is one of your favorites, but was there some other favorites as well that may have, you watch and you sat there and go, I want to be involved in this. This is the movie, or, this is a movie and that's a movie that, got you hooked, that you're like, yeah, I want to be in this business.
Well, I can tell you that I made a lot of Star Wars inspired films growing up.
Awesome.
I made many Star Wars inspired films. And that also led directly into something else that I do, which is visual effects. I started not only making these movies, but like my friends, like we would make lightsaber videos, and I was like, okay, great. We made the video. How do I put the special effects in? So then I learned how to make the special effects for those things too. So like, it was just like, as you said, trying to just get my hands in every aspect of this. But I lost the question. I'm sorry. Other films. Yeah, other films. So yeah, I mean, obviously inspired by Star Wars, but I mean, there were so many movies that I just like latched onto and watched many, many times growing up. I mean, I'm trying to. The silliest one that I can think of is maybe not that silly. Singing in the Rain. I watched Singing in the Rain so many times growing up. Just the dance sequences and obviously it tied right into that, that interest of mine, which was musical theater. Right. But I watched that film so many times. I watched, Twister I watched one time because I was very young and I was terrified. But that one stuck in there. Psycho I watched not Psycho, The Shining, excuse me. Psycho I watched, but The Shining I watched many times. Films like that, I mean, which are very different than the film that we're going to be talking about later.
Yeah, no, it's cool because it seems like, again, it's just, there's so many things as a creative, there's so many things that influence us, and it gives you so many ideas in so many different ways. And no matter what film you make, there's always going to be a little bit of elements from all of that in the film. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
You have little elements of drama, elements of this and that. So, yeah. So, as we were saying, we're going to be talking about one of your favorite films. So we're going to be talking about the movie. Which movie is it today?
Hook. 1991.
Yes, sir. Yes. That's right. Directed by Steven Spielberg, of course.
Yes.
Starring Robin Williams, Dustin Hoffman, Julia Roberts, Bob Hoskins, and Dame Maggie Smith, who I absolutely love, by the way.
Yes.
She's so great in everything. She's a little bit in everything growing up.
Yeah. She is.
The budget was $70 million. And can you believe at the box office, this thing made $300.9 million?
Wow.
That's crazy. I had no idea at the time. So
wild.
The critical score is 29%, which is kind of shocking.
And critics who cares?
It's and then the audience score being 76%. So obviously they're missing something that we see in the movie. But why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about why you chose Hook, and if you can also tell us a little bit about what Hook is about.
Sure. Well, Hook is about a character named Peter Banning. Peter Banning is a mild-mannered lawyer, and he goes to visit his adopted mother in the United Kingdom with his 2 children. And while he's there, the 2 children are kidnapped by apparently Captain Hook from the Peter Pan stories. Peter Banning wakes up the next day in Neverland and learns that he is in fact, supposedly, Peter Pan. Tinkerbell and the Lost Boys try and get him into shape to save his children until maybe one day he can realize who he truly is and reach out and save them.
Oh my gosh. It's very good. By the way, that was awesome.
I can tell you have experience pitching and telling ideas
Right.
to
Oh my god, pitching is so
investors
scary
and
for me.
stuff,
Like
yeah.
I had to take a class in it for my film school before, and I would start really good, but then it just kind of trails because I look at the blank face and I'm going, "Yeah, you're not falling for this. Sorry." Like you lose concentration, but oh, so good.
I like your style. Keith.
Yes.
Thank you. It's that theatrical thing, you know?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And then, just in case anyone, of course, I'm sure a lot of people know, but Peter Banning is played by Robin Williams, who was an amazing, fantastic talent. Who I wish was still around with us today. He was kind of like America's dad, just kind of everywhere at the time.
Yeah, he certainly stapled my childhood.
Yeah,
growing up, that's for sure.
But one of the things I like about this movie as well is that it's almost like saying, don't lose your inner kid. Everyone, even doesn't matter how old you get, don't forget who you are, like a little bit on the inside, and have fun, and don't take it seriously necessarily, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm kind of curious, when did you first see Hook?
Well, it came out in 1991, and I probably didn't see it immediately when it came out because I was very, very young at that time. So I probably saw it when I was like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years old. But it was just one of those movies. We had it on VHS, and I just watched it. It was just one of those movies that I just really enjoyed it. It meant different things to me at different times too, because one of the plays that I did growing up was Peter Pan. I was played one of the Lost Boys on stage in a stage production. So I had this connection to it as well there. So just the Peter Pan story really, was interesting to me, and then Hook. And so I just always sort of like really, it was just a fun thing for me to go and experience, all the time,
That's pretty awesome. I was getting ready to say like, oh, please say that you played Peter because you probably practiced the flying movements, all that stuff. Yeah.
No, I never got to fly. This was community theater. They didn't fly the Lost Boys in community theater.
Liability.
Probably, yeah, liability issue. And logistics.
Yeah.
So what about this film? As Chad, I'm sure you're probably interested as well. Like, what made this one your favorite film?
I thought about it for a second because there's usually another go-to film that I talk about when I talk about like an influential film for me. But this one kind of popped into my head pretty quickly after that because I was like, that other one's really good. That one's inspiring. That one I get different things out of. This one, I watched this movie and this is just a fun movie. This is what I want movies to look like. This is what what I want them to feel like. This is just like the experience. I enjoy the experience of that movie. I think the storytelling is great. I think the way concepts are introduced throughout are very effective and enjoyable and entertaining. And, it's, and even aside from just the filmmaking aspects of it, you can sit down and I think, I don't know, I feel like you can put that movie on at any point in the movie and start it right there and you're going to have fun watching it, which I've done so many times. I've just like been channel surfing. Oh, Hook's on, stay.
Yeah, exactly. It was the same way growing like, back in the day when HBO would play sometimes those movies like during the day, maybe during the weekend or something. And you're like, oh, wait a minute, there's Hook. Yeah, I'm captivated.
Yeah.
It definitely transport you into a different world. And that's kind of like, I guess that's what you would like to do with your movies is transport them into this different world and keep people on this journey.
Yeah.
What's going on. So yeah, I can see where it would mean a lot for you there. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, even though, and this is kind of interesting, but even though this movie is a sequel, and I think it's unique, well, not, I want to say like necessarily it's like an unofficial sequel. So, and I think they did it smart because it was like, oh, okay, imagine Peter Pan as an adult close to middle age, a lawyer,
Yes.
and then transfer him back into Neverland where he has to try to remember. So it's completely different. But outside of that, what would you think if like there was some sort of maybe sequel to this movie or maybe even a prequel? Like, what would you want to see? And what do you think of that idea?
Well, I've thought about this idea a lot.
Nice, you thought about it.
with my Peter Pan interest here. I actually think it would be very interesting to see a story of a prequel to Peter Pan. I think it'd be an interesting. My feeling is, and I don't know how this works in Neverland theory. I don't know if there's an official source for this, but my feeling is that James arrived as a lost boy at Neverland the way all the other lost boys arrived, and then warred with Peter over dominance of the tribe of lost boys. And then when he lost, decided the ultimate revenge would be to grow up and become a pirate.
Oh
yeah,
man,
there you go.
That I think would be a really cool film.
Yeah,
oh,
for
that
sure.
would that would be really interesting, right there.
Yeah,
Oh
I
my
agree.
God.
Yeah, either
So
that, or I'd like to see like
that's my thought.
like a Rufio,
A Rufio
movie. Yeah,
Rufio movie, that'd be
yeah, he
Now-
was one of the
Interesting.
cooler characters. Yeah,
weren't they sort of developing a Rufio movie loosely?
that's a good
question. I'm not
I
100%
think they
sure.
were loosely developing something, and I think the actor said they were developing something. I don't know whatever came of
Yeah.
it, but it was in the past like 5 years that I saw this. Maybe
Oh,
COVID
wow.
did something with that, but
Yeah.
I seem to remember.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
think
the
that's
thing
kinda
is,
ringing a bell
he
for me.
became one of the popular characters, and of course, Bangarang became, the,
Oh, yeah.
I still say
pop
Bangarang.
culture. Yeah, exactly.
Do you
Right.
say
I
that
say
after-
it like-
after you get a scene
Yeah.
filmed and it's already done, you're like, this is it, we got it. Bangarang.
There may be a take of me doing that somewhere
Nice.
in some of these movies.
Leave it for the blooper reels.
Yeah. And that reminds me, like I did not know this for many years. It really wasn't until Chad and Josh and maybe another friend of us told us, but Glenn Close makes a cameo in this movie. And she
Yes.
plays, of course, one of the pirates, which I did not know. It was like
For the longest time. Yeah.
yeah, I had no idea. Which goes to show like
The boo
you know,
box.
how good she
The boo box.
Oh man, it's like my favorite
Oh
quote
my
from the
God.
movie. The boo box.
That blew my mind when I learned about that cameo.
Yeah.
I-
Yeah.
But then if you see it, you can see it if you know
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Yeah. Once
Yeah.
you see
Yeah.
it, like it's
Yeah.
there. But yeah, she was great. Yeah,
Yeah.
that one little blip.
Oh, that was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
That was-
Oh, another interesting cameo. At the very end of the film, when Tinkerbell flies off in London and there's
Mhm.
a couple on the bridge and they start floating up and they're dancing. If
Oh,
you
yeah.
remember that shot,
Mhm.
that is George Lucas and Carrie Fisher.
no way.
Wow.
George
I did
Lucas and
not
Carrie
know
Fisher.
that.
Now that just blows my mind too, because I did not know that.
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, that's really awesome to know. I never know that.
How did I not know that? That's so cool. Oh my God.
I don't think they're
Talk about a
credited.
Star Wars thing there for
Yeah,
you. too,
really.
Like, and how that movie kind of comes full circle for you.
Yeah.
That is really interesting.
Yeah.
I learned that one, relatively recently.
Nice.
Yeah. That one I was like, what?
Yeah. You're gonna get off of this, you're gonna reflect on it, be like, man, this movie really has followed me.
Wait a
So-
minute. My next film was going to be called Hook. I should stop that. No, I'm kidding.
No, you're good. So I'm curious, like, what's a favorite scene for you out of the movie, or even a favorite quote?
A
Other
favorite
than, of
scene or
course,
a favorite
Bangarang.
quote? Yeah, well, yeah. I think it might be the food fight scene.
Ooh,
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
That's a real turning point in the film, and
Mhm.
that's really, I mean, that's really the moment in the movie that it's like, that's what it's about. And as you referenced it earlier, where it's like it's about finding this childlike thing inside yourself, and he doesn't see the food. There's no food there. There's nothing to eat, whatever. And then he just wants it to be there, to throw in Rufio's face, and there it is.
Yeah.
And then he's a kid again, and then he's Peter Pan. And it's like that
Yeah.
was such a cool moment in the film.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. I totally agree with you on that one.
Yeah.
It's putting the vision in your head and then you finally see it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, that is so cool. So, and this to kind of like round up some things on Hook here. Why should people see it?
Why should people see Hook?
Yes.
Okay, people should see Hook because it's a kind of movie that is rare now. I think. I think that Hook represents a genre that doesn't exactly exist in the same way that it did previously. Hook is a movie that's a PG movie that it's a movie for the whole family, first of all, because it's not like you're going to any crazy places. You can sit down and everybody can enjoy it, but it's not a movie that is it's not a light movie in that sense. It takes itself very seriously. These are high stakes. You can see moments that I think that it's I think that people should see it because A, it's enjoyable. You're gonna watch it and you're gonna have a great time watching it. B, it'll probably stay with you because there are moments in there that really I think mean something. And C, as I said, I don't think that there's a lot of movies out here lately that have that same feel.
Yeah.
I personally would like to make some movies that feel that kind of same way. But I think that I haven't seen too many lately. So if you're somebody who's been has never seen it and you are, interested in seeing something of good quality that's a little different, go for it.
That's really good. I agree too. Like I think if anything, again, it kind of goes back to that thing of like being an adult and you have to, of course, do the adulting things, but when you need that escape, and this movie kind of just reminds you of just have fun too. Don't take everything too seriously. Don't worry about it necessarily every day. I know sometimes that can be hard, but look at what you kind of have around you with family, friends, or whatever. You can sit there at the table and imagine there's food and then have a good time.
Yeah,
Have
absolutely.
an imaginary food fight
There
as
you
well.
go.
Why not have some fun with that? And then also do the boo box. Reenact the boo box. So before we go as well, is there anything you would like to tell us more with Shimmer? Is there anything else that why should people see Shimmer, or any other details you want to give us about it?
Sure, absolutely. Well, first of all, if Shimmer can be found on shimmerthemovie.com, and it's available on Amazon, it's on Vudu, it's on Dish, it's on In Demand. It's also available in certain Walmart stores. It's on Blu-ray and DVD. And also a fun thing, Shimmer the novel coming out soon, so that's going to be exciting.
Wow. Nice. Yeah.
And but yeah, I mean, why should people watch Shimmer? I think that this is something a little different. I think that this is something really fun. I think that I look at it as a mystery thriller with some horror elements, and if that's something you're interested in, go for it. If you like anything from, as you said, the X-Files to Scooby-Doo, I would say
Yeah.
enjoy it. I threw a little Scooby-Doo reference in there. One of the characters says something about solving a mystery. I'm like, let's do this. So I think that it's something that a lot of people can connect to. And if you're interested in having a fun evening with a mystery film that has some unexpected payoffs, I would think go for Shimmer.
Sure. Yeah.
Sounds great, man.
Yeah.
So where can people find you?
Yeah. As for myself, again, so Shimmer News on shimmerthemovie.com, or we also have the Shimmer Facebook page, the Shimmer Instagram page, and those are both at Shimmer the Movie. And then as for myself, I have a website, robciano.com, and then my handles on Facebook and Instagram are at robcianofilm, and that's pretty much where you're going to find information about myself and my upcoming projects. And finally, my company is Venture Cinema, so venture-cinema.com.
Nice. And I just wanted to jump in real quick.
Yeah.
I saw where you were working on a movie of a very different genre, a romantic comedy, it seems like. Can you give us a little bit of a teaser on that, and maybe possibly a release date ballpark figure on that one?
Absolutely. So this film is called 29, and funny we're talking about sort of coming of age films with Hook, because 29 is it's about two 29-year-olds, very naive. They've kind of been skating their way through their life, and they meet and start to fall in love just in time for life to threaten to take them in separate directions. And they need to take the reins of their lives for the first time. So yes, very different genre, but I'm very excited about this film. It's going to premiere at the Garden State Film Festival on March 27th.
Nice. Okay.
It's coming up. It's if anybody's interested, if you're going to be at the Garden State Film Festival, or if you're going to be in New Jersey and you're interested in just going to see the film, they have individual screening tickets. It's going to be that Sunday at the Jersey Shore Arts Center at 2:30 p.m.
Okay.
And you can get information at gsff.org for ticketing on that. And other than that, I mean, that film, I'm hoping to be able to. We're in the next month. I'm going to be releasing some trailers, and we started putting some information for that on Facebook and Instagram at 29movie. Everything spelled out TWENTYNINE movie.
Okay.
See, he did really good with that, because I would have messed that up so bad.
Yeah.
That is amazing. So, Mr. Ciano, thank you so much for joining us today and taking the time to be here and to
Absolutely.
Hook, because Hook is one of those. I haven't talked about it in a long time, so it was just great to have a conversation about it. And I think we
Agreed.
could go on forever and ever about it, because there's a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
to really take from it. Ladies and gentlemen, Shimmer is out right now. Like he said, it's available on your digital platforms. It's also at some Walmarts on Blu-ray and DVD. He's got 29 coming up here soon. So make sure you visit his platforms and support him. And hopefully we'll get to talk again.
Yeah, hope so.
Awesome. All right. And everyone have a good day. And I'm Chris. And
I'm Chad.
all right. Have a good one.